Okay, guys, welcome to Humanities 2 for the summer. I'll be uploading quite a few of these videos like this as time goes by. Obviously, I'm recording this at home, and so life happens around me. There are always cats. So if something happens and there's a lot of noise or whatever, the dogs go crazy, something, I will probably not start over. I'll just kind of deal with it and keep going. I'm going to start putting up 2 discussion questions each week so that we will have the same number that you would have for a 16-week course. And the discussion questions are going to be probably one of the most important things we do, because I'm going to be presenting you with information and presenting you with stuff to think about. And I'm going to be asking you questions and having you write about those things to engage with the material that I'm giving you. And so, we'll be focusing on those, and they're a pretty big chunk of the grade. And then we'll have our tests. We'll have 3 of those, and they will be fairly straightforward essay exams. Obviously, this is being an online class. That means you can do it at home. I'll give you a week to do those when I get them up. And I'll have things more mapped out on the What's Due When tab in the next couple days. So I'm hoping to just finalize all of that and get that where I want it to be before we kind of get to the middle of our second week. And so let's just launch into our first couple discussion questions. I've had one that you've done now, picking a musical genre and talking about where it began, when it began, giving me some details about it. But I also asked you to think about the culture in which it arose. And nearly everybody kind of dodged that part of the question, because that's the difficult part, right? And so what I want to do is give us another shot at that for our next discussion question. And I'm going to give you some help here in this little lecture to help you tackle that question. So our second question will be to focus on that musical genre that you picked. And I'm specifically asking you to talk about the culture in which it arose. And one of the ways to do that is think about it thematically. So what are the themes that are present in that particular genre of music? Music has, every musical style, every musical genre kind of has themes that repeat. So, and there, there's a limited number of things you can make a song about. But certain genres focus on certain themes. And so I'm going to take country and western music as an example. And in whichever genre you've chosen will have its own kind of thematic content. But in country and western music, there are some basic themes that show up again and again. Broken relationships, alcoholism, right? Alcohol abuse. There's a tremendous amount of sadness that underlies country and western music. Even the upbeat, funny songs like I've Got Friends in Low Places, right? Well, that's about a guy whose relationship has fallen apart, and he's saying it doesn't matter to me because, I have a bar that I drink at. And in the context of Garth Brooks' song, it's kind of funny, but in real life, that's tragic, right? And this tells us something about, now there are other themes in country and western music, but let's focus on that one. The idea of sadness, of drowning sorrows in alcohol, right? This is drug use, particularly culturally acceptable kind of drug. What does that say about that genre of music and the culture that genre of music comes out of? That there are all of these concerns with failed relationships and the, influence of alcohol. And I don't know the answer to that. We can talk about it, right? That's what I want you to do in this discussion question. Talk about why is that? Why is this theme so prevalent? Why is it revisited again and again in country and western music? Other themes are, for instance, going back to the country. There's a lot of songs about discovering how good the country is, or why the country, as opposed to the city, urban landscape, is preferable, right? That's a song that you're going to hear again and again and again. You're going to hear a lot of themes about the identity of being a country person. This is a concept called ethos that we'll explore in more detail as we go on. But ethos is it's the character of a thing, a person or a culture, any human thing. How the character of that thing is illustrated by the things that culture or that person produces. Country and Western has an ethos, a very definitive ethos. An electric Prius is not part of the country ethos. It's got to be a truck, right? These are aspects of the character, the identity of that particular way of looking at the world. And a lot of country music glorifies that ethos. And then that tells us something about the culture that this arises in. What do people who make this kind of music, who engage with this kind of music, what do they value? What does this tell us about them? And what I want to really kind of drive home here is that art does not happen in a vacuum. It happens in a cultural context. And it's a fascinating subject, how art shapes culture and culture shapes art, because they go together in that way. So let's take the genre of punk music, right? Something that arose during my lifetime. When I was very young, say, 75, 76, somewhere in there is when the punk rock scene really begins to take hold and become a thing. And it is all about rebellion and fighting against the dominant cultural norms. It's about anarchy and violence to some degree, right? That's what punk rock is about. And it arose amongst very socially isolated people who were alienated from the culture, young people who felt betrayed by the dominant culture, who felt outcast, who had grievances against the world because of the way that it's shaped. And punk rock reflected those attitudes. It arises from that kind of place of anger. But at the same time, punk rock music influenced the culture as well. So the culture gives rise to the art. The art then has an impact on the culture. And then what happens is a genre of art or a genre of music. We're taking music as our example here because that's one of the forms of art that we all interact with, most often in our culture. We all listen to music, right? Well, there ends up being this dynamic between the art and the culture. And each shapes the other, and then it changes and morphs as time goes by. And so that's what I want us to focus on. And I want you to understand that art and culture are interrelated with one another. And we can discover a great deal about a culture by the art that culture produces. And so for your next discussion question, focus on that, and let's knock that thing out. And then I will be posting some new information for you guys in the very near future as we go along. I'm going to throwing this class together as we go. But I will always keep you appraised of what's happening in the course messages and the announcements. And also, please, I'm going to say this again and again and again. If you need to get in touch with me, do so through course messages, email, right? But also, there's my phone number. And if you really need to get in touch with me, I want to get in touch with you. One of the most difficult things about an online class is communication with the professor, and that's a sticking point for most students, right? And I do not want to miss communicating with you when you need to get in touch with me. If you have any questions, any concerns, anything I need to deal with, feel free to use my cell phone number, which is in the syllabus as well as in the professor tab. I will never be upset with you for getting in touch with me in that way. Also, feel free to use the other methods as well. I check them at least once a day, but it is not impossible for me to miss something with all the students that I have and all the different people who need to get in touch with me. So, what I'm saying is, if I miss a communication from you, it won't be on purpose. So please help me stay in touch with you, and do not be afraid of getting in touch with me using my phone. And that's that. The second discussion question will be up today, and I will also have some more information in the course announcements today.